Morning.
Of
Thank you, Autumn.
course. Now we have everybody. Did you want to go ahead and get started?
Absolutely. But before I read the commission opening, I just wanted to let everyone know that I have to log off at 10:30 this morning. Before I knew I was going to be chair of this commission, I had a flight booked at 12:25, so I'm going to cut it as close as I possibly can.
That's close.
If there's a case pending, I won't be able to vote on it, but we do have a quorum, so that's fine. I also want to remind everyone that we, at the end, should be discussing the proposed operational framework and the position paper that was sent out by the county executive. Did everyone receive that?
I did not.
Tom has a confused look.
I don't think I received
Okay,
that.
it was emailed out from, I'll have to go back and check the email. If everyone hasn't had a chance to review it, then we might have to put off the discussion. It was emailed, give me a sec, from Christine Anderson back on August 14th. Has no one else seen this?
I have not.
Okay.
No.
I apologize then because I can't communicate to the entirety of the commission without it being a violation of the Open Meetings Act. So I am going to forward this to Autumn right now. And then she can go ahead and send it out to everyone. And so for the record, we will not be discussing it today and we'll have to discuss it at the next meeting. But it was some proposed changes to the operational framework, whether or not to move animal control out from underneath the police department. And then there's a position paper that was put together by Chris Trumbauer to go through some of the options and what the pros and cons of each of those options might be. There's no legislation pending, so I don't think it is I don't think it's super time sensitive, but everyone needs a chance to review it. And I do apologize. I thought this was sent out to everyone since I can't. But anyway, okay, let's go ahead and get started. Good morning. You are attending the Animal Matters Commission hearing for September 9th, 2024. Wow, that was hard. The Animal Matters Commission was established and is conducted in accordance with Article 12 of the Anne Arundel County Code. These are administrative hearings and by nature they are informal, which means you are not hampered by rules of evidence. However, please be aware that you are still testifying under oath. Each party will have their opportunity to state their case. After each party states their case, they will have an opportunity to ask questions of the other party. Please do not interrupt the other party. You will be given ample time to talk. In many cases, we are aware that there is a history. You may briefly tell the commission about the history. However, please focus on the issues at hand. After each case, the commission will have open deliberations. During these deliberations, the public may not participate. If the commissioners have an additional question, you may answer that question. No further information will be heard and a decision will be rendered. This decision is a recommendation to the chief of police or her representative. The recommendation of the commission will be taken into consideration and a final decision will be made by the chief of police or her designated representative. If, as the defendant in the case, you are unhappy with the decision of the commission, you may appeal. For citation cases, appeals are made through the District Court of Maryland. For administrative orders, such as potentially dangerous, and vicious orders, appeals are made through the County Board of Appeals. Please call the first case.
If you're a party in Animal Care and Control versus Enoch Harvey, please use the raise hand function. One. Is there anyone in attendance for Mr. Enoch Harvey? If so, please use the raise hand function so I can promote you to panelist.
Autumn, there's a chat that says somebody is raising their hand.
Yeah, no, I just, there they are. if you could unmute and turn your video on.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you, yes. Your
Yeah.
camera's not on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I keep my camera off because I don't, modern technology, trust me.
We need you to have your camera on so that way
Okay,
when I
hold,
swear you
hold on, young lady, just hold on. Okay. I think that's on. It says on air.
The hearing is on air, that's what you're seeing, but we're not able to see you on video.
Okay, so can you help guide me through this? Because it says start my video. Hold on. I don't know what's going on. I see my name, but I don't know why you don't see my picture because I turned the camera on.
Are you on a phone or are you on a computer?
I'm on the computer.
In the lower left-hand corner, do you see an icon that says video and it has a little picture of a video camera?
I see, yeah, it says stop video. It's saying stop video right now. It's beside the microphone that says mute. And then I see on the bottom to the left, it says stop video. It's a video camera and it has an arrow going up.
It's saying stop video, so it's showing that your video is running.
That's what it's saying.
It has a background on. If you look on the same stop video, in the top right-hand corner is a little arrow that's pointing up. If you click that, it should give you the option to take the background off.
It says HD camera. It says blur my background, choose virtual, choose video filter, choose avatar.
Is there a
Try
check mark next to any of those?
Say it again. It's a check mark next door to the HP HD camera. Select the camera.
Okay, so if you,
Oh,
there you
wait a minute.
go.
No, that's an
Yeah.
avatar. That ain't
Yes,
me. Oh, yes, it is. Okay. I don't know what the background part is for though.
Oh, you guys are sitting too far back is what it was probably. The background is there and you're sitting far enough back from the camera where you're not showing up through it. Now you've moved closer and we can see you're kind of in and out.
That wasn't the case, young man. We sitting right here. We have not moved. It just popped in. Modern technology. Keep that in mind.
All right. So if I can have all parties raise your right hand and keep your hand raised.
Raise your. I sent the email last night because I was just aware that we had to send an email letting you guys know that Mr. Harvey is 70 and he's hard of hearing. That's why I'm helping him, and he has no computer skills. So he's going to raise his right hand.
Mr. Right hand.
Okay.
Do you declare and affirm under penalties of perjury the testimony you are about to give is the truth,
I
the
do.
whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
They want to know if you're going to tell the truth, the whole
I
truth.
can hear you. Oh, yeah.
All right, Mr. Harvey, if you could please state your full name and address for the record.
You said what now?
State your name and address for the record.
Enoch Harvey, 77A West Bayfront Road, Lowton, Maryland.
And then Officer Gum, can you please state your name and address for the record?
Officer Gum, address is 411 Maxwell Fry, Millersville, Maryland, 21108.
And Officer Lyles, if you could state your full name and address for the record.
Tiana Brianna Lyles, 411 Maxwell Fry Road, Millersville, Maryland, 21108.
One of them was. Yeah.
I'm going to ask now that everyone put on their mute function, and when called on, you can unmute to speak. I will now turn things over to the chairman.
Are we ready? Which
Yeah.
officer is going to begin?
Before we begin, Miss Ricks, I know she's there to help Mr. Lyles. Should she be sworn in any sort of way? Jennifer, do you believe? I don't know if she's going to have any other opinion.
I can swear in, not a problem. You ready?
I don't think it would hurt. Autumn,
Okay.
you want to go ahead and swear her in?
Do you declare and affirm under penalties of perjury the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Can you please state your full name and address for the record?
Wysenia J. Ricks, 9805 Black Eagle Way, Upper Marlboro, Maryland, 20772.
I will now turn things back over to the chairman.
Are we ready to begin?
Yes. So I'm Officer Lau speaking. So I'll go ahead and proceed. On June 5th, 2024, we received a complaint of a thin horse and beagles in cages without water at 77A Spriggs Drive, Lothian, Maryland, 20711. Also known as West Bayfront, 77A West Bayfront, Lothian. I made contact with the property owner, Miss Daphne Spriggs, who notified me that the owner was Enoch Harvey, and we made a follow-up appointment to meet with him on June 7th of 2024. On June 7th of 2024, Officer Sycon, Officer Bame, and myself met with Mr. Harvey and observed the animals. It was observed that all of the dogs were in rabbit hutches and were provided with green, dirty water, no bedding, feces built up inside of the sleeping area, and Mr. Harvey was given a notice to comply to clean up the living area. On July 3rd of 2024, we conducted a follow-up with Mr. Harvey, who at the time provided clean water and provided pine shavings in the bedding area and removed the feces. Below the wire portion of the cage was still remaining feces. We also discussed shelter requirements for the dogs and gave him another notice to comply for shelter to be completed by July 18th of 2024. It was also noted that there were what was believed to be some guinea fowl inside of the barn, but was not able to inspect due to the owner not willing to engage. On a separate follow-up regarding the conditions and the horses with Dr. Lewis, horse vet, on July 9th, 2024, it was noted that the dogs were still in rabbit hutches. And on July 12th, 2024, for another additional follow-up with the police department, it was noted that the dogs were still in the same living conditions. So due to the circumstances of the conditions of the dogs, the horses, the fowl, and other livestock on the farm living in poor conditions and in bad health, on August 15, 2024, Animal Care Control, along with Southern District PD, executed a search and seizure warrant for the animals belonging to Enoch Harvey. On this day, Animal Care Control seized one horse, Paco, who was surrendered to us, 33 fowl, and 10 beagles, 6 adult beagles and 4 puppies. The beagles were still divided into 2 rabbit hutches. Both hutches were worn and the material of the floor were saturated with urine and feces. In one section of the hutch was an adult female beagle and 4 puppies that were at least 2 weeks old. Upon further investigation, one of the puppies was deceased and another one died upon its arrival at the shelter. The enclosure smelled intensely of urine and feces, as did the mother and the 4 puppies that were inside of the hutches. All of the dogs were very dirty, smelled of urine and feces, and appeared to have tinting skin, possibly indicating some stage of dehydration, and all pale gums. Each section of the hutch had water that was not palatable and dirty, some light and green in color, and in the sections that had food was covered in mold and it was untouched. On the ground, we observed around the enclosure was what appeared to be bones in various stages of decay from dogs that were deceased. We're not for sure that if they were of dogs that were deceased, but they appear to be dogs. In multiple locations around the enclosure, we found what appeared to be vertebrae, leg bones, rib bones, skulls, and other bones. Some of the bones still had fur and decaying skin on them. One of the 2 skulls that we found still had portions of dog gums, and some of them had teeth still on them.
Is there anything
So-
further?
So we are waiting for results to confirm that the bones are actual dog bones.
Was that, did you have them sent to a lab for DNA testing? Is that what you had done?
We're waiting to have them sent to the vet we use for necropsies to have them analyzed to determine that they are canines.
What's the lot size of the property, square footage?
22 acres.
Amber, the clinic.
Approximately 22 acres.
Very good, thank you.
Just for my own notes, can you give me the dates of the visit again? When was the first visit to the property?
The first visit was on June 5th, 2024.
And there was a follow-up in July?
So there was a follow-up July 3rd, but the call was founded on June 7th when we went back out and made contact with Mr. Harvey.
So you were there on June 5th and June 7th?
Yes,
June 7th was the first video to see.
June 7th was the first time we got to see the animals.
Okay. Jackie, you had your hand raised?
Please, thank you. I have a couple of questions. First of all, what was the condition of the horse?
So the condition of the horse was severely emaciated with visible vertebrae. The hooves were overgrown. There was some cracking in the hooves. The horse, you were definitely able to see like the withers and the hip bones and the rib cage. So it was definitely very emaciated.
Thank you. Do you have an actual number rating, on the scale?
The day the horse was removed, the vet that we took, which was Dr. Lewis, she responded with us again for the second visit, was between 2 and 2.5 on the body scoring scale.
Thank you. My other question is, does Mr. Harvey live there full time, or does anyone live there full time to take care of the animals?
So Mr. Harvey lives on 77A West Bayfront. So that's where he resides. As far as the other owners, from what I understand, no, they don't live on the property. I know Miss Daphne Spriggs is the property owner. She lives there. But she states that she has no care and custody of the animals on the farm. So it's Mr. Enoch Harvey that lives there and cares for his animals.
So just to be sure that I understand correctly, then the farm has multiple housings?
So there are multiple owners that own several animals on the farm.
And but not, do all of them live there on the farm?
No.
No. Okay. And who are the other owners?
So the other owners would be Linda Marie Sheffy Royster. We have Stephen Sheffy. There is a Michelle Lyons. Mr. William Royster is Miss Linda Royster's spouse. And that's pretty much it. And then Enoch Harvey, Mr. Enoch Harvey.
Is there a family relationship between Mr. Harvey and the others?
So what it has been brought to my attention is that Miss Daphne Spriggs and Mr. Enoch Harvey are brother and sister. And
Thank you very much.
yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
Just so we're clear, the horse, Paco, has been surrendered, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, and that horse is not part of today. The only thing we're here to
No.
discuss today is the beagles and the chickens, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And if I may, I can speak on the chickens as during the warrant due to the size of the property. That was the portion I handled. The chickens were
Absolutely,
located
go ahead.
in the barn near the various horse paddocks. There were approximately 3 enclosures, the first one being this enclosure visible on screen. It's a white bin-like container in a large dog crate. It had a heat lamp on it when I entered the barn. Inside were approximately 12 chicks. One was deceased in the container upon arrival. Um, there was no food or water present, and the container was packed with feces, which was coating their food and water dishes that were provided. But as you can see on screen right now, there was nothing available, and they're standing on ample debris and other matter. In the other two containers, there were approximately 12 guinea fowl in a smaller, or not a smaller, another container. It was a black plastic bin with a wooden lid with a wire mesh on top, again with a heat lamp. Again, there was a lack of food and water. There were the containers to provide it. However, due to the size and space, there was no water, no food, and again, it was filled with feces. And then the last container, which was the largest of the three, housed approximately 8 chickens. And they again had a heat lamp with a wooden lid. This container was larger, and I believe the bottom half was built out of wood. There was an empty water dish that had like the last bits of moisture, and a container that I'm not sure its contents. It doesn't necessarily look like food, but the rest of the container has thick feces throughout the bottom.
Jackie?
Thank you. Again, a couple more questions. Sorry. Do you know what is in those red barrels in the barn?
We did not access those barrels at the time, so
Okay.
we do not know.
Okay. And then what was the physical condition of both the birds and the dogs?
The general body condition of the dogs.
So the general body conditions of the dogs, their weight appeared to be of ideal at the time that we executed the warrant. The dogs did have ear infections. We did have the dogs examined by our kennel staff that was there
And
with us, and later a vet as well. So the dogs had ear infections. They appeared to be of ideal weight, but they did have like they were showing signs of dehydration with the tainting of the skin. And they reeked of, again, the foul odor of urine and feces.
I was also the one who later took the dogs to the vet, and the vet described most of the dogs as having a grade 3 on their teeth, citing that they had all dental issues as well.
Thank you.
I've got a question for the officers. You stated earlier that there are several owners of this property, and I understood that you had implied that some of the owners own some of the stock on the property. Are the dogs and the fowl that we're speaking of, are they actually owned by Mr. Harvey?
On multiple occasions, Mr. Harvey made claim ownership over Paco the horse, the beagles, and then while on scene, as earlier before this, we had not been able to identify who the chickens belonged to. He approached and identified that the chickens belonged to him during the
Okay,
warrant.
so Mr. Harvey acknowledged ownership of the dogs and the fowl that we're addressing this morning.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Anything else from the officers? Any other questions? Mr. Harvey, you can unmute your mic now.
Muted.
Mr. Harvey, were you able to hear everything that the officers just testified to?
Not everything, no, I hadn't. I heard some of it, but I didn't hear all of it.
Mr. Harvey suffered, he can't hear in either of his ears, and his hearing aids aren't working properly. And he has an appointment to go back to the doctor to try to fix this problem. So I explained most of the stuff to him. We saw the pictures. I saw the dogs, and you talked about how many times you came down to the property and actually who owns what animals. And he did say that he owned the horse and the dogs and the the chicken
Yeah.
and the chickens. And also he had
And the cows, yeah, the
and
cows.
the cows. The
Yeah.
veterinarian came down and you guys, when y'all came, I think on the 7th of June, you guys wanted a report from the veterinarian because the other lady had a horse down there too, the Linda lady. And they sent the report to you guys, but the veterinarian said the horse was okay.
Just told me feed them twice a day. And that's what I'm doing, feeding them twice a day and stuff like that. I mean, and like the dogs thing, they tell me build the pens and all this stuff. I mean, I got to build the pens and all that stuff, and then you come take the dog. What's the purpose of me building the pens? I mean, it don't make sense. I mean, you tell me do something, I'm doing it, and then soon I do it, then you come take it. I mean, take stuff. I mean, it don't make sense. I mean, why put me through all of that? For what?
Basically, what we would like to do is try to work towards getting everything up to par so that we can at least get the dogs back. Mr. Harvey works a full-time job and he's 70 years old, so he has to work in order to earn a living and as well as to actually, feed the animals and take care of the animals. So what we want to strive to is to get to the point where we are in compliance with the animals so that he can continue to maintain the animals on the property, which is his sister's property.
Now, Miss Ricks, are you any relation to Mr. Harvey?
No, just a friend for the last 25 years and trying to help him go through this transition because he is not email savvy, computer savvy, or any of those types of things. So I'm trying to help him get through this process because at this point, nobody else was helping him. And I was down on the property, I think 2 of those times that the ladies came down. I wasn't there the last time that they came and seized the animals, but I was there for 2 of the times.
I have
Not
a question.
intentionally, I just happened to be down there.
I have a question maybe for the animal control officers. So the first time you witnessed any animals was on June 7th, correct?
Yes.
And on that day, was Mr. Harvey present?
Yes.
Okay. And
Yeah.
did you provide him?
No, I can't.
Tom, you muted yourself.
Was there any on that day when you spoke with Mr. Harvey? Did you give him any specifics as far as the kennels, like what is required versus what was already on the property? Is it can you describe that maybe a little bit more as to like what that conversation is like? Was he given any specific like sheets or forms that say this is what needs to be here, or this is why the rabbit hutches are not viable? Any of that information?
So I did speak with him about the county code requirements for shelter for animals outdoors. And I also provided him with a packet that explains what the requirements are for animals being outdoors. So that was discussed with him.
All right. And Mr. Harvey, you did receive that packet, and were you able to review the packet that talked about the county regulations as far as shelter for the animals?
Can you hold on for a minute? Let me let him know what you're saying because he can't hear. I'm gonna put you on mute, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
While we're waiting for that, I have a question for the animal control officers. Does Mr. Harvey have the required state and county permits for the birds?
Ain't nobody doing it but me. I mean,
Mr. Harvey said that he did receive the information from the ladies when they came down. And he also stated that
I don't know how long it's gonna take me to do it, but it ain't nobody but me by myself doing it. So I told him, yeah, I'm doing it, but like you say, and like in the field with the horse and stuff like that, they asked me something, but the barbed wire fence there, right? Like I said, they gave me 7 tickets for the horses in there with the fence. Why I get a ticket when somebody else got a horse in the same field and they get nothing? I mean, they get no ticket. I get all the tickets. Everything's on me, and somebody else horse is in the field too. I mean, it don't make sense. Why I'm getting a ticket and they don't get a ticket? It don't make sense.
Jackie. Oh, I'm sorry. Jackie, you had a question?
Yes, thank you. I have some questions for Mr. Harvey. Mr. Harvey, can you hear and
Yeah.
understand me okay?
She said, what now?
Can you hear and understand her?
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, well, I heard you, yeah. Let me.
Yeah, I'm translating so that he can hear too. I got the volume up at high, so
Yeah.
I can't go any higher, so.
Thank you, Ms. Ricks, for helping him. We really appreciate that. Mr. Harvey, I'm wondering why you have the dogs and the chickens.
She said, what now?
Why do you have the dogs and the chickens?
Cause I want the eggs from the chicken and the dogs I hunt with.
Did you hear that, young lady?
Yes, thank you very
Yes,
much.
we heard. Thank you.
And Mr. Harvey, do you care for the dogs and chickens all by yourself, or does somebody help you?
What you say now?
Do you care for the dogs and chickens by yourself, or does someone help you?
Yeah, I just got the chicken. Yeah, I do all of it by myself. Yeah, I just had got the chicken, but I've been had the dog. And like they talking about the dog pen, they were down there with I guess 2021 or something like that. Now they tell me the pens is fine, all that. Now I built them pens, they were fine, but now when it comes down to now, it's a different story. Now I need new pens, all this stuff. I mean, like I tell them, I'm on, I can't just do stuff overnight. It take time, ain't nobody but me. I can still talking about putting a 10 by 10 pen. I mean, like I tell them, that's 6 pens I got to build 6 pens. How long do you think it'll take me to build 6 pens? I can't build them overnight.
Sir,
And then
thank you.
Like I tell them, it's what 90-degree weather was out there. I mean, who would look? I had a brother and a sister both done had strokes. Like I told them, I'm not going out in the sun like that. I'm not gonna do that.
Understand it was very hot this summer.
Yeah, that's it.
How long have you had the dogs?
But the older ones, I done had them since they were puppies. That's been but 6, 7 years ago. Them, longer than because the male and the black and white one is the mother and father of the younger two. But the two blue tick ones, I brought them. Yeah, when they were little teeny puppies, yeah, raised them. Yeah.
Mr.
Officer,
Harvey,
you had-
what
Oh,
were
sorry.
your plans for the puppies?
Them what you call my cousin wanted the puppies, so I told him he could have the puppies, cause I didn't really want no puppies now, cause them 6 what I had was all I wanted.
You,
Mr.
Officer-
Harvey, can you shed any light on the bones and the other debris that was found underneath of the in
Oh, yeah,
proximity of the cages?
like I told them, that stuff don't belong to me. My dogs up in this pen. Them the only dogs I got, only dogs I had. So I mean, I know this stuff not like I said, could have been my brother because he had dogs before, but he in a wheelchair, and they could have been his dog. I don't know.
There were 2 separate dog pens.
Right.
The first one you got
But my brother
was
yeah.
his brother and wasn't nothing
Right,
in there.
mine
The
been one
second
up there.
one was the one that Mr. Harvey.
Yeah, but I had put
occupied
one of my
with-
dogs over in that pen. I transferred over in the pen.
His brother Larry was in a car accident. Now he's in a wheelchair, so he's no longer able to help take care of the
Right.
animals as well.
All right,
Officer,
thank
you had a question?
In reference to the statements he made about
Come
the
to him.
hutches from 2021, there was a previous search warrant for this property where 2 horses were removed from a different owner. The beagles were being addressed, but people arrived on scene and were willing to take custody. So at that time, according to the officer's notes, as it was not my case, I was reading the previous case file, they were given away to family members on scene under the original impression that they would not be kept in the original conditions they were in, is what the officer's notes said. If we need to provide those records, we can. We just weren't aware that this would be brought up as it was a past incident for slightly unrelated case.
It came down in 2020.
So, Officer Lyle, can you speak to Mr. Harvey claimed that there was 2 separate dog pens there. Is that correct? I mean, the 2 separate areas where maybe dogs would have been housed, and were the bones found under maybe one versus another, or is there? Can you speak to
So
that?
there were dog bones that were found under both. They were in various areas. So there are 2 separate hutches, but they were just in different areas. Some of the bones were behind the hutches, some were in the front. I remember when I went out there on June 7th, and when we first made contact and saw the animals, we did observe a skull that was sitting in front of one of the hutches. So that was our first time observing that. But when we executed the warrant, that's when we observed more of the bones.
Okay, and I acknowledge I said dog bones. I know that they're being tested to verify that, but
Yes.
bones specifically. All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Excuse me, I have a question. Those bones that you found are being sent to the lab. They haven't been sent yet and they haven't been tested, correct?
That's correct. They're still pending results.
Thank you.
Right.
But they
I
have
missed-
been sent.
That's why they're unidentified animal remains at this time. They're of similar appearance to canines. We're having them examined.
Okay, I just thought that you said that you guys had them, you hadn't sent them to the lab, and then I thought you just said, hold on, that you sent them to the lab, but you're waiting for the results. So which one is it? You haven't sent them to the lab yet? Or are you sending them to the lab? Oh, I mean, have you sent them to the lab, waiting for the results, or you haven't sent them to the lab yet to get the results?
One moment, I'm gonna get clarification from my supervisor in the room.
Thank you.
As of right now, they have not been sent yet. We're waiting for our pathologist to have an appointment ready for them. So they currently are still in our custody
Thank you.
in a secure storage.
And again, I apologize for insinuating dog bones. I meant bones, so I'm sorry.
Anything else, officer?
I would also like to reiterate, I was not the original officer on the case, but I came out to assist at multiple points, as well as due to my experience with having writing and issuing search warrants. I came out on scene to evaluate and assist Officer Lyles and Officer Sycon, and it was discussed with Mr. Harvey multiple times, as well as he was provided with the laws multiple times regarding the enclosures. And from the last point that we gave him a notice to comply to correct the shelters, he was given until I believe it was July 18th to have the corrections done. And due to the review process for the search warrant, we did not get to execute it until October 15th, resulting in the dogs still not having proper shelter by that point.
October 15th?
I mean, I'm sorry, it was August 15th. I'm got my calendar. mixed up.
August. Okay,
But
that's what I had in my notes.
The deadline we were given him was July 18th, and the time we arrived on the property for the search warrant was August 15th. I'm sorry, I don't know why I keep saying October. And at that point, he had 4 additional weeks, I believe, to make those corrections, and had failed to do so by that point. There was some signs of enclosures being built on the property. However, there was no change of the kennels that they were being kept in. They were still being confined in the improper shelter with improper food and improper water.
Those additional enclosures you saw being built, were you able to identify who was building them since there's multiple owners on the property?
He was not on scene, but however, I believe his earlier statements, he advised he was building them.
Thank you. Jackie, did you have another question?
Yes, I do. Thank you. For Mr. Harvey. You said that you hunt your dogs. I'm wondering where and what do you hunt with them?
Rabbit.
And where do you hunt?
Where do you hunt?
Well, I go to Eastern Shore, Western Maryland, and stuff like it, North Carolina and stuff. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And how do you transport your dogs?
Excuse me, what?
How do you transport your dogs?
I got a truck with a dog box though.
Thank you. And Mr. Harvey, can you explain to us how your horse, is it Pablo, how he got into the poor condition that he was in?
Yeah, I can. Like I told them, I had sold the horse to a guy, and the guy got sick, and he couldn't handle the horse. So he asked me taking the horse back. So I went and got the horse back, and I worked on trying to get him back together. While I was working on him, to me, he's 100 times better than when I got it from him. Because when I first got it from him, he was hardly could stand up almost, and I got him and I've been working on. Because at first, Michelle, she was helping a little bit too, to help feed him and stuff and everything too. But then, it was everything on me. But I still, like I said, feed him. I feed him twice a day, like the man would tell me. Feed him twice a day and all that. I mean, like I told him, what else can I do? I mean, I fed him and then the vet come out and all that stuff. And they tell me, but the hoops on him. So I got all that stuff done. I mean, what more can I do?
you, sir.
And more to feed him twice a day.
I'm going to stop this right here
Yeah.
since the horse has been surrendered and the horse is not part of this case. I understand there might be some tangential
Right,
evidence.
yeah, the horse,
in his
right,
ability
yeah,
to care for him,
I
but
told him.
I don't want to spend any more. I don't want to spend any more time on the horse because
Right,
we're
yeah,
only
'cause I
focusing
told
on the
him,
dogs
I
and the
told-
chickens. Do we have
Yeah,
any other questions from commission
Yeah, yeah.
members about the dogs or the chickens?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Harvey, is there anything else that you would like to tell us about your dogs and your chickens before we deliberate?
Can I talk now? Yeah. Yeah, they said they found dogs and stuff remain under both cages, but I know that's not true. Cause there wasn't nothing under my dog, but with the dog manure stuff, they not clean that up. They told me that clean that up, not clean all that stuff, and then build the pens. When they came down and asked me about the pens, they told me I'm doing a great job and all this. But then you come take the dog, but I wasn't finished because it was hot out there. I said, like I said, I can't. They asked me how long it's gonna take. I told them, I don't know how long it's gonna take, but it'll get done. That's exactly what I told them.
So we just want you all guys all to know that Mr. Harvey is 70 years old and he does go to work every day and he does take care of the animals on the property. I have volunteered to help him with taking care of the animals because I'm a senior now and I'm retired. So I live probably about 20 minutes from the actual farm and I can go down and help him with taking care of the animals as far as feeding and cleaning and things of that nature. He is in the process of building those houses.
I got them built. I know how we build them.
I gave him money so that he can go ahead and buy the stuff up front and start building a house. I think he built like
Hey, just one of you speak at a time. I'm having a hard time hearing because you're both talking at the same time. Ms. Ricks, can you please continue?
I said, I'm willing to go and help Mr. Harvey with the animals to help feed them and that. I can't build any dog houses.
I got the dog house built.
Okay, let me speak.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can just hear one of us. But he's in the process. I gave him money to get the materials that he needed to build the dog houses. So we are definitely taking care of that. I think at this point we just need to put the top on. And did you put down the dirt and whatever for the floor?
I got that. I got this stuff there, but I haven't put it in there yet.
So we just got to put the flooring down and then put the shelter over top of the dog cages.
You see, look at the houses up here.
Is there anything else, Ms. Ricks?
Just basically, Mr. Harvey is doing the best he can at his age, and also he's not able to hear. Luckily, I was down there on a couple of times that the ladies came down to kind of help them understand he couldn't hear and to help him understand what they were saying. Like one instance, they were talking about one lady's horse that was back there that needed some food. And, he was saying that, hey, that's not his horse. But I said, okay, don't worry about it. We will make sure that horse gets some hay to get food because they said he didn't have any food or water back there. And that's the day that we got ready to do that. And then I think later on, like 20 minutes or so, the actual husband came for the horses because those barrels that are in that barn is where they keep their food up and they keep the food locked up. So we couldn't open up the barrels for that. But we're definitely willing to work with you guys, or better still, you guys to help us so that we can get to where we need to be at. And we want to be able to maintain the situation for the dogs and keep it going as well as for the chickens too. So I'm volunteering to help Mr. Harvey with feeding and taking care of the animals.
Thank you, Miss Ricks. I appreciate it. I apologize. I don't know why I'm having such trouble talking this morning. I don't believe there's anything else, so I'm going to close the hearing. Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Hemmer.
One last question for the animal control officers, if you please. Have you all been back out since the seizure to see what Mr. Harvey's done in terms of progressing towards getting the property in shape to take the seized animals back?
We have not been since the search warrant, as there are multiple owners on the property. Every time we come to the property, we're met with extreme hostility. That is why we had to bring police presence on a previous search warrant. One of our visits, somebody showed up from one of the owners. He showed up wearing a firearm, and so we were concerned for our safety. Therefore, anytime we go out, we have to bring law enforcement with us. This is still an active case, so we still are going to have further interactions possibly, but we have not been back out since the search warrant due to the possible threatening nature of some of the individuals that are at the property.
Very good. Thank you, officer.
Jackie.
Yeah, just one more for the officers. Were the dogs vaccinated and licensed?
The dogs were not licensed nor vaccinated. That is another issue that we were having, but we were trying to tackle the shelter first. A officer had actually previously issued a notice to comply for vaccinations for 3 of the dogs when they had been found running at large on a previous incident. And she issued a notice for that. It was unrelated to the investigation that took place on the property, but as of right now, we have not been provided with any vet records by Mr. Harvey. That is all we have on that at this time.
Thank you. I suppose we should ask Mr. Harvey about vaccinations.
The vaccinations of that,
The dogs, the vaccination, 3 of them already got the vaccination. Molly, Mabel, and Jill.
Mr. Harvey, can you show documentation for the officers that your dogs have been vaccinated against rabies?
Yeah, well, I've got papers for the 3 of them. Yeah, but I ain't got it in there. Well, I ain't got it with me, but it's in the truck by that.
who is that? Who did the
They
vaccination?
did it.
Oh,
They did it. They
you
did-
guys did the vaccination
Yeah,
for
they
those
did it when
dogs.
they had the dogs up there.
3 of the dogs.
Okay, but then to be clear, you had not had them vaccinated.
You said which one?
He said, to be clear, you did not have them vaccinated.
I got the papers
No.
they gave me. Oh,
Before they came down there,
these 3 with the vaccine, I had them out running one day. They got loose and they picked them up, took them up to the pound, and that's when they vaccinated them and thing that I paid the money to get them back and bring them back.
so
3 of them.
basically, they were
Okay,
not
thank
up
you.
to date
Right.
on their vaccination
Right.
until the
Right.
county
Right,
came up
right,
and vaccinated
right,
them. You paid the
right.
fee. Okay.
Thank
Okay,
you,
Dr.
Mr.
Hemmer,
Harvey.
you had another question?
Thank you.
Yeah, question for the animal control officers, please. The same question I asked earlier. Is the flock that Mr. Harvey has, is that registered with the county and the state?
I believe due to regulations, as far as we're aware, the size of the property makes him not to have a fowl license. I'd have to verify our information, but I believe it's with zoning, and if it's over a certain acreage, they're not required to be licensed.
What about for the dogs? Is there
According to
a
the
license
statute, Dr. Hemmer,
required?
there's no license required unless they are on a lot less than 40,000 square feet. And my understanding is this property is 22 acres and there's 43,000 square feet in an acre. So this property more than exceeds the requirement. So there wouldn't need to be a license,
Then the
is what
fi-
I'm reading from the statute.
Then I guess the follow-up question I have for Curran, if he's on the line here, is what about the state registration? The flocks have to be registered with the MDA. And that's what I'm asking is this flock registered with the MDA, and do we have any purview over that?
I don't know.
Is Curran with us?
He's rejoining as a panelist.
Thank
One
you.
moment.
So the question is, A, is a flock registered with the MDA? And then B, is that registration or lack of within our purview?
Hey, sorry. I don't know the licensing requirements under the state code. That I think would fall to the state to enforce those. So animal care and control wouldn't be the body enforcing it, as far as I know.
Okay, so that whether or not the flock is registered with the MDA is beyond this, is outside the scope of our matters at hand this morning, correct?
That might affect the ability for returning the flock, if that's something that animal care and control would routinely check in their normal processes for this situation. But I don't know that it would affect any recommendation made by this body outside of just if it is required, then that would be a requirement that would have to be met just under the state code in general.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Kern.
And I guess I'll go along with that. 10 dogs, would that require a fancier's license? Would that be correct? Or is there a number of dogs?
I believe that also falls under planning and zoning, as well as they establish who gets a fancier's license. I know for residential, it is 4 dogs. However, given the acreage of the property, I would have to review the county regulations if that applies to the similar regulations like the chickens.
Right, thank you.
Karen, do you know, for a property this size, it's approximately 22 acres, whether or not a license would be required for 10 dogs?
I can confirm with animal care and control, but my understanding is that the dog fancier license is required under the animal control code. And that if this meets the definition of dog fancier, which off the top of my head, I think was, well, let's see, I can pull it up really quick.
Excuse me, are you saying
Yeah.
dog fancier? I don't understand the last part of that. For
So
the-
dog
Hold up
fancier
one
is
second.
an individual who on residential property owns or keeps 5 or more dogs primarily as pets. And the licensing for that is under the animal control code. The zoning licensing or the zoning provisions are based on kind of maximums for the property, how many animals can be kept. But the licensing, I believe, is under the animal control code.
Okay.
And for the record, he's only gonna keep the 6. He had no intention on keeping the puppies. He was giving those away. So how many puppies did you, I know you guys, there was 1 dead. You took 2 away and 1 died in transportation or when it got there, correct?
Yes, we impounded 4 puppies. 1 was deceased. 1 died, I believe it was a day or so later at the shelter.
Okay, so he's only gonna be keeping the 6. He's not keeping the puppies, the other 2 puppies.
Apologize, I'm sorry, I'm just flipping through the.
While you're waiting, I have one more question for Mr. Harvey. If you can explain to us on a daily basis, how do you care for the dogs on a daily basis? What is your regimen for taking care of the animals at the property day to day?
Okay, hold on, let me translate what you just said so that he can give you an answer, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Not me, I don't go down there.
So
Yeah.
you want him to explain to you his day-to-day routine for taking care of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
dogs or the chickens or the whole gambit?
Well, I said dogs, but I'd be happy to hear both.
Okay, so we're gonna start off with the dogs.
Okay. So,
Explain to them what you do when you go down to take care of the dog?
Yeah, a lot of time I turn them out, let them run around, let the dog, I'm telling you, I let them run, cause I be training them. And, then, like I said, then when I put them up, I feed them, give them water and stuff like that. That's in the evening time when it go. But if it, like I said, rain and stuff, I go in the morning and stuff like that. But I'm down there every day. I'm there every day. Not no one day, every day. Every day. But then, like I said, but the pens and all that stuff, I mean, they said the pens and everything was so good. When we went to go, I mean, so what was the purpose of come tell me something that, I mean, what, 2, 3 years later, everything is so much different. I mean, how do I'm supposed to know it's different if you don't tell me it's different? Well, I'm going by what you done told me first, what I need, and I done did what you told me I need. So I mean,
He's basically stating that when they came down, I'm assuming
Right.
in 21, they
then
said that
they
every,
switched up on me. Like I asked them, what's wrong with them pens? The pens that was in, they've been in there for the last 3, 4 years, and everything like that. So I mean, what was wrong with them? That's what I want to know. And then they tell me somebody got to be in a 10x10, each dog in a 10x10, or either 2 dogs in a 10x15, like that. I mean, like I told him, I mean, I can't build that overnight. But but I got it built. Yeah, I got it built, but I got put the top over, the top for the, run the rain enough and get it.
are you able to tell us if the regulations or the requirements from 21 for the dogs, far as physical, I mean, as far as the size of the pens or however, did that change since 21? Because he's saying that in 21,
Come down and
they
say
come
everything
down
was
and
perfect.
everything was perfect. So has anything changed for the regulations for the size of the pens for the dogs or anything like that since 2021?
As I stated earlier, we are not the officers from 2021, so I don't know any statements they've made. However, as far as I'm aware, the regulations have been in place for, Roger, do you know how long the kennel regulations have been?
I don't know offhand, but at least before 2018.
Our supervisor believes they have been in place since before 2018. I can review that to try to find a date if that would assist. However, again, per the records I read, which can be provided if needed,
Could you please?
indicated we were going to remove the dogs. However, somebody on scene claimed that they could take the dogs to a different location so that they would not be living in those environments. That's why they were allowed to be given to somebody on scene during that 2021 search warrant. The officers' intentions per their records were that they intended to remove those dogs at that time as well for the living conditions.
They intended to, but they did not.
Because somebody else on scene, a family member, showed up and advised that they could take care of the dogs and remove them from the property. They were allowed to give them to that person at the time, and they were allegedly taken from the property that day. I'm not sure if it's the same dogs from that original case. Per some of Mr. Harvey's statements, it sounds like it may be. However, we were not the original officers who handled that 2021 case. We're just getting all this information from their case files that we reviewed due to it being history from the property. It again advised that they intended to remove the dogs, but a family member advised they could care for the dogs elsewhere. So in hoping to ease the dog's care, they allowed them to be removed by this family member with Mr. Harvey's permission at that time.
Understood. Thank you. Jackie, you had another question?
Yes, thank you. For Mr. Harvey, how often do you clean the dogs and the chickens enclosures?
Okay, hold on, let me tell him that.
Thank you.
Do you clean the dogs and the chickens enclosure that they are in?
Well, but once a week, I usually do it every week. Like I'm saying, yeah, I usually clean it once a week, every week. Yeah.
And how do you dispose of what you clean out?
I got a hole where I put it in and where I dig it and put it in the ground. Yeah, on the farm, yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Anything else? All right, I'd like to close the hearing at this time for deliberations. And I think, Tom, we'll start with you.
Do we need to start by, do we need to vote initially that the warrant was, or the seizure was warranted?
Yes, there's two pieces to this. Was the seizure warranted? And then, if it was, should the animals be returned or should we retain care and custody?
Okay, so I do believe that the seizure was warranted based on the evidence that was provided, including the unknown bones and the conditions of the cage, with feces in some cases in food bowls, the lack of water present, the insufficient size of the kennels. I do believe everything was warranted. As far as the return of the animals go, the fact that these animals, potentially the same animals, were dealt with back in 2021, we don't know that they were the same animals. Conditions don't seem to have gotten much better. The conditions of the dogs themselves seem to be, physical conditions other than the smell and the I guess the ears and things like that, which I don't know. Dr. Himmer may be able to discuss that a little bit better with animals basically living outside, if that's to be expected or what. But I wouldn't be totally against him getting the animals back if the conditions were absolutely right. But at the same time, I'm a little nervous that, since we've been going through this for so long, that these animals can be maintained daily. At his own admission, is up in his older age and he's got a full-time job. Can these animals be maintained properly? So I'd lean towards not returning the animals, but again, if he puts it has the proper size enclosures and procedures in place to care for these things correctly, I don't see a full reason why he couldn't return them. But again, it would have to be pretty, I don't know. It's already kind of beyond the scope at this point. So I'll listen to whatever anyone else has to say, but I'm kind of leaning towards not returning.
Okay. Nicole?
Sorry, mute problems. So based upon all of the evidence, I think that the officers did a great job and were persistent in ensuring that he was aware of the requirements over the past few months. Understand he's doing it on his own, and it's hot, but it's also hot out there for the dogs that are not in a proper enclosure. So based upon the deplorable conditions and the fact that I'm not convinced that anything will change, I believe that the warrant was warranted and the dogs should remain in Anne Arundel County's care and control.
Thank you, Nicole. Jackie?
I agree that the warrant was verified. I personally and professionally have worked too many cases like this. I appreciate that it sounds like Mr. Harvey has now tried to make some better housing for the dogs, but I am very much concerned about whether or not he really appreciates how serious this is and what is really needed for the general welfare and health of the dogs based on the ear infections, the teeth, and particularly the dehydration, and that they were not vaccinated. And I'm concerned that whether or not he is physically able to care for these dogs in the way that they need to be. So I guess I am leaning towards not returning them. But if we should consider return of the dogs, I think that obviously animal control needs to verify the completion and the appropriateness of the new housing. The dogs need to be spayed and neutered so that they don't produce anymore. And of course, payment of shelter fees. And I wonder if Mr. Harvey is able to do that.
And Jackie, just for the record, do you agree or disagree that the seizure was warranted?
Yes, I said that at the start, but yes,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
it's okay.
Sergeant Daughters?
Hi, good morning. Yeah, I absolutely, the search warrant was necessary and executed appropriately. I don't think that Mr. Harvey has the capabilities of maintaining the number of animals that he has on the farm. And I don't think that any of the animals should be returned to him, even though they have been spayed and neutered at this point. Did I hear that correctly? Or they still have not been? Okay, thank you. So I think he has too many steps to be able to care for the animals accordingly. And I just don't think it's in any of the animals' best interest to be returned.
Dr. Hemmer?
Thank you. First off, I think the search was warranted and the seizure was appropriate. So I think we're all in agreement there. I've broken this down in my mind to two separate populations of animals, the fowl and the canines. And from the photographs that I saw and what Mr. Harvey spent the bulk of his time speaking about, I feel strongly that the fowl should not be returned to the property. I don't think he's got I don't think he'll ever be able to get the facility up to where it needs to be according to what just needs to be mandated by the state to keep a small flock like that. So I just don't think that's even in realm of possibility for him. So I feel strongly that the fowl should not be returned. The canines, little bit more latitude on that. By his own admission, he says that he's getting, the outside kennels set up. He does have some obstacles to go over to get in compliance, but I'm thinking of returning the animals, but in a staged in as much as that he probably can't get all. I believe he only wants the 6 adults back. I don't think he wants the puppies. That for the 6, if he winds up getting that 10 by 15 pen set up, and animal control approves it, that it's met all the minimum requirements for housing, then I think he can get the dogs back 2 at a time. And he can certainly wait until he gets all the outside. The dogs, compared to some of the cases that we've seen, the dogs obviously are being well cared for. They're fed, they've got good body condition scores, good muscle condition scores. Ear infections in beagles are run of the mill. I don't think we should read anything into that in terms of his care. I think the biggest issue on the care perspective that I see is totally related to the environment that they're kept in. It's just unclean and unkept and unsanitary. And I think if he addresses the housing issues, I think those dogs are going to be taken care of. So that's where I'm leaning, that we could probably release the dogs, but only on an individual basis based on clearance from animal control that he's in compliance. And those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Dr. Hemmer. Normally I start with you, Dr. Hemmer, and I purposely didn't this time because I wanted to hear everybody's feelings before hearing from you, although now I'm regretting that because I think, well, at least for me, it made a difference hearing from you because I was of the opinion, obviously, that the seizure was warranted, and it was my initial opinion not to return any of the animals. It had not occurred to me to even consider a graduated return of an animal at a time. I might be willing to consider that. I think Mr. Harvey is going to have a lot of difficulty giving his age and his current abilities. I think Miss Ricks coming on the scene is could change things a little bit, because it seems like he now has some help, a set of hands that he did not have before. However, we don't have any authority to order, order Miss Ricks to do anything at all. So that's really nothing more than just, I guess, wishful thinking. I have a question though for animal control. I know even if we decided to return the animals, animal control is very backed up. They would not be able to vaccinate and or spay and neuter these animals, would they? That would be incumbent. Mr. Harvey would have to do that outside of animal control, correct?
It would have to be done outside of animal control, on his expense, in addition to the paperwork we gave him on how much the care per animal would cost to get the animal back. So he would have to upfront pay for it, and then we would transport them out and then bring them back here until he's able to comply with everything else.
Okay.
Right. So there's other costs involved with the animals staying in animal control, and it can't be an indefinite time frame for those animals to stay there. So I mean, in the end, I kind of agree with Dr. Hemmer here that I've kind of been thinking this in the background. I mean, if there is work put into a proper enclosure and he's been given the information as to what that's supposed to be, but we can't have, it can't be December before all this is done and the animals have just been sitting, languishing, waiting to be returned. I don't think that's fair to anybody either. I'm not sure how that plays, but yeah, I agree with you, Jennifer, that Ms. Ricks being available is definitely helping his case. But otherwise, I would agree again with the fowl. It doesn't seem like fowl being kept in those small cages like that is at all warranted and should not be returned.
Okay, Dr. Hemmer, you getting ready to say something else?
Yeah, if I may, I guess I know that there's been a lot of infrastructure issues going on in animal control right now, and we need to we need to be on the mindset of what's best for the animals, and then what's ultimately we want to return the property back to Mr. Harvey. And I mean, if the animals have to stay in animal control through December, certainly that's not how things would operate in the past, but given the current set of circumstances of animal control now, that may be an unfortunate reality we have to address, because I still think getting the dogs back graduated to him, as these are working dogs. I mean, he's hunting with the dogs. He's putting food on the table with the dogs. So, we got to get that back to him for his livelihood. And I think he's making, at least I perceive his comments, his honest and true hearted, that he is trying to make an effort to make the environment suitable for the pets to come back. But given his age and financial circumstances, he may not be able to get all 6 of them back, by the end of September. So it's just going to take him some time. And I think you're right, Jennifer. Ms. Ricks is certainly going to be helpful, but I think we need to maybe look at this for the canines, at least on a bit of a longer time horizon than getting them back out in 30 or 60 days.
Jackie?
Yeah, I really like the idea of the graduated return to him once animal control can verify that the structures are correct and ready for the dogs to be returned. But I also wonder, and I don't know if this is an option that's viable for us to offer to him to choose 2 dogs that he would like to have returned, and possibly not all of them, which would help to cut his costs and make it easier for him to care for the dogs. And he would still have his hunting ability and his companionship with the dogs. But definitely, I agree that the fowl should not go back.
Jennifer, if I may, just to make note, when it's a cruelty case and search and seizures, it's going to be 60% from the day that he appealed, that we seize the animals. And it's $65 per day per animal. So that's what in addition for redemption fees is what he would have to pay since August 15th. So I just wanted to make note that that is the letter he received.
So,
Right.
so if I'm understanding you correctly, it's costing him $65 a day per dog. So we're talking $2,800 a week. I mean, if that's the case, then practically he'll never get these dogs back. I mean, financially, he just won't be able to come up with that. Is my understanding from Mr. Harvey. I could be wrong.
Yeah, so he has
sure.
until he has 45 days after from the day that we took the animals to make the first month payment since he appealed. I'm sorry. And then he has 50 days after the first 30 days to make the second payment for the second 30 days.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
basically he would be, held to that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that when it comes to these cases, there is a significant financial, burden that's going to be placed on him since the new law passed back in May.
And he has the
Is-
added
I thought
cost
there
of
was still,
spay
I
and
thought there
neuter.
was still an out under the new law. I mean, that there was some discretion by animal control under the new law.
So those are case by case. What's the word? We just handle those. That I know what you're talking about. Where we can waive some of the fees, but we use them as case by cases with the community. Not so much in cruelty cases, just because of the way that the animals were found. Typically, we don't do that. We don't really waive it for order cases or cruelty cases.
Dr. Hemmer?
Is Mr. Harvey aware of the financial situation he's being put in by animal control? Does he have? And I guess where I'm going with this, and I mean no disrespect, Autumn, is he aware of it? It seems like he has trouble understanding us.
He came the day that he appealed. He came into animal care and control. Officer Simpson and myself went out front, discussed at length. I even did the math for him to get the chickens back. If they were to return it back, I did the math for the dogs. We went over that. He said he understood.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have a witness. I made sure that he knew everything that he was going to be responsible for.
Okay, very good. Thank you for doing that, Autumn.
Yeah.
Okay. The financial concerns raise a whole different issue for me. I actually liked Dr. Hemmer's graduated return in, and I understand, I actually lobbied and testified for the legislation that passed in May. And I'm a little, I guess, I'm a little disappointed. Well, actually, I can't say that because we haven't made a decision yet, but I never intended, and I wouldn't want to see this commission take such a rigid and hard line with the statute that we forget we're dealing with animals and we're dealing with human beings as well. And I understand that this is a cruelty case, but I'm not seeing any intentional cruelty. I think Mr. Harvey, like Dr. Hemmer said, I mean, these are working dogs, at least where the dogs are concerned. I'm not discussing the fowls because I think the chickens, we're all in agreement on that. But they are working dogs. He does use them to hunt. He uses them to put food on the table. He is elderly. I don't think, like I said, there was any intentional cruelty here. I think this is almost simply just a fact of life in the area where he lives and the way in which he was raised. And I would hate to see that statute be adhered to so strictly that it becomes punitive in this kind of situation. So while I do think Mr. Harvey should bear some financial responsibility for, especially because animal control is obviously footing a large bill for this, I think we need to exercise some consideration and some compassion and consider whether or not, I don't even, whether or not we want to impose the entirety of these fees.
I think the concern that, going back to what Officer Gum said, that was a huge concern. Obviously, we don't know the animal remains yet, but it was the fact that the food was completely covered in mold, and then the water was like a green algae color, and it was like that every time they went out. So that was the concern for the dogs, is that they weren't being fed every day. That's just going back to what Officer Gum stated. But yeah, I apologize. I'm a little under the weather today.
No, that's okay. All right, look, since I'm short on time here, and I don't want to leave before we finalize a vote. I at least want to. I'm going to put forth a motion that we vote to uphold the seizure, that the seizure was appropriate.
Second.
You hear that? Who's second?
Hammer.
All in favor? All right. Okay. And next, just in the interest of time, I'm gonna put forth a motion that the foul not be returned.
I'll second that too.
All in favor? All right, so we just have to decide the dogs. Just as a preliminary matter, how many of you would be willing to, and this is not a formal vote, I'm just gauging the temperature here. How many of you would be willing to consider a graduated return? Okay, so Dr. Hemmer, do you want to, I feel you're better suited to put forth that motion if you
Sure.
can frame it
Sure.
for us.
I put a motion before the commission that we allow the canines only to be returned, the 6 adult canines to be returned to Mr. Harvey on a graduated basis as he completes the outdoor housing and it gets approved by animal control. And to that end, I'd like to cap his expenses at $150 a day for the care at animal control.
Can we separate those two? Because I'm not sure how much authority we have
Okay.
with that.
Okay.
So can we just stick to the graduated return
Yeah,
of the
the first
dogs and
motion
we'll
then
handle
is,
the
yeah, graduated return of the animals. He can take 2 at a time as he gets the outdoor housing in compliance with animal control's approval. That's my first motion.
I'd second that motion.
All right, all in favor? And now to the fees.
Did Nicole abstain?
That's no
Oh, I'm
vote.
sorry, I
Nicole
didn't, I'm
did
sorry,
not
I should,
abstain. Nicole does not agree.
and I should have, that was my fault, in a manner of order because I asked for all those in favor and, so now I need to call for all those opposed. I apologize, Nicole, that was my failure. And now as to the fees.
I'll make a second motion on the fees that we try and cap those at $150 a day.
And that's for all of the dogs or per
For all
dog?
6 of the
Did anyone
dogs.
see, before we move on this, that I think Curran put something in the chat about the request to review costs of care. If you would like to read that, Jennifer, before we move
Right, let
forward.
me see it. Hold on. The owner may request a view of the cost of care imposed under the subsection as part of any petition. Such cost may reduce. Okay, that's what I thought, and I didn't want to start flipping through because it would have taken me forever to find it. But I thought that was part of this. So I think we should assume that Dr. Hemmer's last motion, or that even though Mr. Harvey didn't specifically say it, he did make several references to his financial position and his need to work even at age 70. So I think it's fair that we can imply from that testimony that he's not able to meet the fees as listed in the statute. So Dr. Hemmer, your motion, I'm sorry, Jackie, you had a question?
Well, just going back to the motion we're about to do, I would suggest that we make the cap per dog rather than the whole group, because if we do the graduated,
Gradual.
he
Good
may
point.
find that after 2, he doesn't really want the others or can't afford to bring the others home.
and he could still potentially be facing that fine. So that makes sense. Dr. Hemmer, do you want to
Yeah, I'll
revise that
revisit that.
motion?
Let's keep the motion the same, but let's change the number to $25 per dog.
Per day, correct?
Per day, yeah, because was it 65 per dog per day, correct, Autumn? Okay. Okay. Yeah. I think that's reasonable.
Okay, and that begins on August 15th, correct, Autumn? That begins on the day the dogs are, okay.
And I would second that.
Okay. All right, all those in favor? Okay. Seeing no opposed. All right. Okay, there are still two more cases to be heard, but I have to log off. Autumn?
Can we just vote on the meeting minutes from last month, or can we do that without you?
You can, I mean, unless for some reason it's split, and I can still sign them, but I mean, if you want to, I mean, we can rearrange the order. I don't see why we couldn't. We already made changes when they were put in. So if you want to do that vote now, I'm fine with that. And then I will log off for the next cases. Tom, would you be okay with, just kind of keeping control of the hearing for me?
I can do that.
Thank you.
Yep. So do we want to go ahead and vote on that now? I mean, I think it's fine. We wait. I think Jennifer can get on her plane. I don't see any reason why we can't vote on that
We
later.
can wait, yeah.
I'm sorry. So are we voting on the minutes now or are we not?
We're gonna wait.
No?
Well, there. Have a safe trip, Jennifer.
Yep.
Okay.
Have fun.
Thank you, guys.
Yep.
See you next month.
All right. So, is everybody good to go on these next two, or do you guys need to take a quick break before we jump into the next two? Good to go. All right. Can you call the next case, please, Autumn?
In the case of Sheriff versus Dawn, if you could please use your raise hand function so I can promote you to panelist. Dwayne Dawn or Michael Sheriff. One. It does not look like the complainant Mr. Sheriff showed up, as he is not in any of the attendees right now.
Well, then I make a motion, we dismiss the citation. Is that the next step of order here?
I think so.
And my motion stands?
Yeah. I mean, I would assume if there's no one here to complain, then we can't move forward. So I'd second that motion. So I guess all in favor. I guess case dismissed. Mr. Don, the complainant did not show up. So, unless we get another citation, for the same thing, then you're dismissed, or for next month, and you're good to go.
Okay, I appreciate it. How does that work? Because, and sorry, just my ignorance, I'm just asking because this was nothing major. I could have just paid a $50 fine. I wanted to do this so that, because I don't believe him to be correct. And I'm just trying to avoid him just going through the motions and just wasting more of my time and your time, frankly. So can he didn't get on today and he could just do this all over again?
So in any if he determines that your dog is creating a disturbance or whatever, there's multiple things he could say essentially, but yeah, anytime this happens, he could do that essentially. So I recommend that you document anything that you think, on your end that would help your case. I mean, if he's in this case, let me see here. So what was the affidavit for in this case?
Yeah, so he said that the dog just barks a lot at different times throughout the day, and I apologize, I was late, but I actually had 3 notarized letters from other neighbors saying that there's no issue and they don't agree with it at all.
Correct. I mean, like those things you can hold on to those letters, notarized letters would be great. I mean, if it's hard on your end to kind of disprove. I mean, if he has evidence that he brings that shows that your dog is barking, if he has video or audio evidence that could prove that, and those are things we're looking for on your end. It's kind of hard to disprove that. You know what I mean? It's like if he has video evidence of it, but it's kind of hard unless you video your dog walking around quiet all day. It's kind of hard to do. But essentially, that's what it is. And unfortunately, any instance where he feels like he's being bothered, he could do this again if he'd like. Now, because this is dropped, there wouldn't be, if we were to find it in his favor and it continued, there's escalating fines involved. But because this case was dropped, it would be considered like the first time if we do come back and he does show up next time.
Right. Okay.
But I miss anything?
Cool.
Anybody? I wasn't prepared to be the commissioner here today. Hey, Commissioner, did I miss anything, Jackie?
I would just recommend, sir, that you pay attention to what his complaint was, the timing and all, and then just try to adjust your schedule perhaps with him. I think part of the complaint was that when the dog goes out, then he wants to come back in, and that's when he tends to get vocal. So perhaps sending him out for shorter periods of time. And when he is out, pay attention. If he starts to bark, then bring him back in. I have a neighbor who is in the same kind of situation. The dog goes out and then he goes back to the door and he wants desperately to go back inside and he sits and whines. I don't care, and I don't have other neighbors, so but I can understand how that could be a little bit annoying. So but also just pay attention to your dog. And if he
Yeah.
wants to come back in, bring him back in.
And again,
Yeah,
nothing's
we
been
try to do that.
adjudicated here. This is all, dogs do bark. We understand that. He would need to prove that it's excessive and kind of to the point. I mean, a dog will bark from time to time, and a dog barking, one single instance of a dog barking does not necessarily, rise to the level of a disturbance per se. So, again, that's, take Jackie's advice. We always want people to be neighborly and try to work together on these things so we don't see them here, but, any other questions, sir?
No, thanks. I appreciate it.
Yep. Have a good day.
All right. Bye.
All right. So I guess go ahead and we can call the last case.
If you are a participant in Bauman versus Williams, please use the raise hand function. Bauman versus Williams. It would appear that neither party are here.
Neither party.
Neither party.
I think Jennifer could have just hung around, it sounds like.
What do we do? What do we do here? Curran, can you opine? I don't think we've ever had this.
Yeah, I don't know that that's ever happened. One second.
Wonder if because our first case took so long, if it's possible that our next two cases, or at least this case, didn't understand the timeliness of this and that they should
I've been
hang out, or
monitoring.
what?
I've been monitoring the attendees, and they've been the same. So nobody
Okay.
really dropped out, and nobody new joined.
Thank you, Autumn. That's very helpful.
I mean, perhaps they came to an agreement outside of this hearing. Perhaps they spoke about it and came to an agreement, didn't and just left it like this. Who knows?
I mean, I would think that we would dismiss just because.
Correct. Yeah, that's what I would think.
The complainant didn't even join. So.
Right.
All right, then I'll make a motion. We dismiss the citation for failure to appear on both parties.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
Got it.
All right. So I guess I would say, we all need to be on the lookout for any of this information that may be coming from either Jennifer or
I'll send it out.
Okay, Autumn's going to send it. That's great. So I guess we should all review it. I will tell you all next month. I'm not going to be here. I'm going to be starting the oral rabies vaccination program on September 23rd. So Greg Fuentes is going to be in my place next month. I should be back in November. But just shameless plug for the program. If you guys, talk to people in the public and just let them know we're going to be out dropping vaccines for wildlife. So, I guess we're gonna look at the vote for minutes from last month.
Yeah, I made all the corrections and I uploaded it into the September 2024 drive folder.
So has that everybody had a chance to look at those? If we have, I'll take a motion on those.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes as published.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? All
Got
right.
it.
So I guess we just need a motion to adjourn. And again, I won't see y'all next month unless you see me hanging out of a helicopter, perhaps.
Yeah. Hey, Autumn. Autumn, can you send me contact information for you? Are there a couple matters I want to talk to you about outside of the commission professionally?
Okay, yeah.
Phone number, that'd be great. So my apologies, guys. I make a motion, we adjourn.
All right. I'll second. All in favor? See y'all next. Well, won't see you next month.
Wait,
Oh,
I
hold on,
forgot
Jackie.
that I wanted to let you all know of something that is happening in the county that I think is very exciting. We have a group that meets every month called the Arundel Horse Talk Group. It's a very loose network of equestrians and horse-related people. And 2 months ago, we got to talking about what to do about loose horses in the county. And so we are now developing a network of being able to identify horses and their owners, identify volunteers, knowledgeable volunteers who can respond and assist police or animal control when there is a loose horse, a network of temporary housing. We'll be talking to the veterinarians as well, Dr. Hemmer, about how you can advise people and all if there should be a need for veterinary care. And the folks who started this out, including a police officer, are talking with the police department now to try to work out things. And we're looking at starting this in southern Anne Arundel County because there's already a good working relationship there, and establishing it as a model and then be able to duplicate it through the county and maybe through the state.
That's very exciting. Very exciting, Jackie.
Thank you.
All right. All right, everybody. Well, enjoy your September and we'll see you soon.
Be safe, Tom.
Thanks, you too.